Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Stapakaya Dharmasya Sarvadharma Swarupine Stapakaya Dharmasya Sarvadharma Swarupine Avatara Varishtaya Ramakrishna Te Namah Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityoramamritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us offer our salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the Supreme God incarnate. Let us pray to Him to lead us from the unreal to the real, to lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. We have been studying Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, which is full of practical, spiritual teachings. Today's topic I have chosen, Sri Ramakrishna, a kindly light. Sri Ramakrishna was full of compassion. His heart overwhelmed with love and compassion for the humanity. So after he realized, after he saw the vision of the Divine Mother, he could not stay without sharing that joy with others. He was very eager to give this spiritual knowledge to everyone. So he would climb the rooftop and call the devotees to come quickly so that he can share his divine experience. And Sri Ramakrishna is offering himself to guide in minute details about spiritual life, and he is a source of infinite inspiration to all the spiritual seekers. He was a unique saint, always smiling. If you read the Gospel, you find everywhere how Sri Ramakrishna, while giving spiritual instructions, always would cut jokes and himself would laugh immensely. The divine joy would express itself in so many ways through him when he would talk with devotees, always smiling. A saint of everyday life, a rare example of a man who lived on two planes, shifting from the one to the other with perfect ease. This time he would be conscious of this external world. In the next moment he would be transcending that plane. He would be in the celestial plane of consciousness. He could go back and forth. Though Sri Ramakrishna lived, moved, and had his being as an ordinary mortal, he was all the time inwardly conscious of the divine mission and the role he was to play among men. So, after having successfully passed through all the spiritual exercises, different and difficult forms of sadhanas, and reconciling the conflict between dualism and non-dualism, realizing the oneness of Brahman and Kali, and also the unity of all religions, that is, after having reached the highest height of spiritual bliss, Sri Ramakrishna folded his wings and stopped further flights to the realm of the Absolute and came down to the earth, desiring to spend the rest of his life among men and women for their spiritual benefit. Sri Ramakrishna's post-1874 life of Dakshineshwar was indeed a family life, with the master in his small room sitting on a humble cot with disciples and devotees, verily his children, and visitors around him, talking, discussing, listening, laughing, singing, dancing. And yet, in the midst of all these mundane goings on, suddenly experiencing a higher mood, a feeling of the divine presence, the master suddenly falls into a state of ecstasy, and the entire atmosphere changes forthwith. The Dakshineshwar parlor was really an amalgam of Plato's Academy, Dr. Samuel Johnson's 18th century literary club, with Keshav Chandra Sen, Girish Chandra Ghosh and Sri M as counterparts, as it were, of Burke, the orator, Garrick, the actor dramatist, and Boswell, the faithful recorder of Johnson's conversations. And a typical 19th century middle class Bengali gentleman's parlor, as well as an Upanishadic guru's ashram, an ancient sage's tapovan. The dialogues and animated conversations, in this case all God-oriented, the friendly atmosphere of relaxation, the free entrances and exits of persons drawn from all his teachings. How habit dies hard, and how difficult it is to overcome low taste, Sri Ramakrishna illustrates by the story of a fish wife. It is said in the Gospel, once a fish wife was a guest in the house of a gardener who raised flowers. She came there with her empty basket after selling fish in the market, and was asked to sleep in a room where flowers were kept. But because of the fragrance of the flowers, she couldn't get to sleep for a long time. Her hostess saw her condition and said, "Hello, Why are you tossing from side to side so restlessly? The fish wife said, I don't know. I don't know, friend. Perhaps the smell of the flowers has been disturbing my sleep. Can you give me my fish basket? Perhaps that will put me to sleep. The basket was brought to her. She sprinkled water on it and set it near her nose. Then she fell sound asleep and snored all night. All the people laughed at this story. Sri Ramakrishna also immensely smiled. He illustrates the essential unity of all religions by pointing out that it is the same water that is drawn from our different ghats of the same lake by different communities. Some calling it water, some pani, some jal, some aqua, and so on. Or take, for example, his instruction to ordinary householders how to serve God or attain spiritual merit without leaving hearth and home. It's not that everybody should become monks and nuns. It may not be possible for all to live that kind of life, but it doesn't mean they have no access to spirituality. They can very definitely be spiritual in their homes. What is needed is sincerity and perseverance. You must be true to your spirit. Do you really want spiritual life? If it is so, you have to be very focused on the spiritual goal. So Sri Ramakrishna asks such a person to play the role of a maid servant in a rich man's family. The maid servant calls her master's sons, my dear Rama, my dear Hari, and so on, and does all her prescribed duties towards them, but all the time she knows in her heart of hearts that they are not her own. Her own child is in her village home where she will one day return. So, should a householder, while doing faithfully his daily round of duties, look forward to his real home. Real home. That is the abode of God. Here was a saint who did not ask people to leave the world. He asked Girish Chandra Ghosh not to think of leaving the theatre. He even asked Narendranath, who became great Swami Vivekananda later on. He even asked him first to settle his family affairs and then come to him. I know, said the master on a later occasion, you have come to the world to do mother's work. You can never lead a worldly life. But for my sake, stay with your family as long as I am alive. We know that the master had, from the very beginning, marked him out for a special world mission in future. And yet he said this. Men of money were around him, but Sri Ramakrishna was above them. We all know his aversion for money. He firmly believed that one cannot serve God and mammon together. We are familiar with this immortal saying, rupee is earth, earth is rupee. What he meant by this was that money is as worthless as dust to be thrown away. It is well known that he could not even stand the touch of money. Swami Vivekananda himself testified how even in sleep the master recoiled in agony if he was touched with a piece of money. The master rejected none. He had the uncanny faculty of studying the mental makeup and capacity of each individual and directing him to the path appropriate to him for reaching the goal, a life of godliness. He justified these differences in directives, saying that the same diet is not for all patients. All these references you get in the gospel. The master himself lived a householder's life. Please note that. But with a difference. After the preliminary years of sadhana in the year 1860s, and having reached the top of spiritual realization, Sri Ramakrishna settled down to a near domestic life. We all know that. Anxious to cure him of his supposed madness, which really was divine intoxication of a rare kind, and about which Swami Vivekananda was to say later. In his lecture, my master Swami Vivekananda has said, referring to Sri Ramakrishna, such madmen are the salt of the earth. Out of such madness have come the powers that have moved this world of ours. Sri Ramakrishna's mother and other relatives got him married. This was in 1859. Gadadhar, the previous name of Sri Ramakrishna, he was then just 24. He returned to Calcutta after about a year and 7 months with no marital relationship as commonly understood established between them. When in 1872 Sharda Devi came to Dakshineshwar, Swami Vivekananda tells us Sri Ramakrishna asked if, as his lawfully wedded wife, she wanted to drag him to the world, he would admit his wife's right to do so. Sharda Devi expressed her wish only to serve him and learn from him and be his disciple and nothing more. This was what Sri Ramakrishna expected from the partner of his life. She was to be the partner of his life's work and mission. We know how Ramakrishna looked upon her as the manifestation of the universal mother, as he looked upon all other women and even worshipped her as such on a new moonlight in May 1872. So began a unique kind of semi-domestic life. The mistress of the house, that of a big Bengali middle-class joint family, running the house, remaining unseen in her inner apartment, silently supplying the needs of all and keeping a vigilant eye on the master's food, health and well-being. The master himself sitting in his parlor, surrounded by friends and followers, forgetful of all material interests, being in the world and yet not of it. Sri Ramakrishna's mother herself came to Dakshineshwar in 1863 and lived here till her death in 1876. So, note the domestic setting, the mother, the son, and the daughter-in-law, while brothers and nephews were already there. It's well known that in order not to hurt the feelings of his mother, Sri Ramakrishna made it a condition with Totapuri that he would be prepared to be initiated to the Vedantic exercise, taking sannyas, but not within the view of his mother. In fact, he never appeared like a sannyasin of the traditional type, and though he was a free man or a mukta purush, he keenly felt the passing away of his mother and felt sorry that being a sannyasin, he could not perform his mother's funeral rites in the traditional manner. His nephew Ramlal did this. Later, when Sri Ramakrishna tried to offer tarpan as a son does to appease the spirit of the departed parents, he found to his surprise that he could not do it. This was because he had already attained that state where Vedic actions naturally drop off. When his nephew Akshay died at the moment of death, Ramakrishna took it philosophically, but on the next day, as he himself said, he felt the loss with an acute pain in his heart, and added that if he, a sannyasin, felt the loss of a nephew so deeply, how an ordinary householder must feel the loss of his near and dear ones. If you study Sri Ramakrishna's life, you will come to know with what simplicity and childlike ways Sri Ramakrishna expressed his desire to go to the theatre or to the zoo with as much insistence as when desiring to see holy places or wise and holy people. We also know his fondness of certain items of simple food and the luxury of a few puffs of the hookah at times. But behind his ordinariness of this kind, there was an extraordinariness. He goes to the theatre and falls into a state of ecstasy, seeing God-intoxicated devotees like Nimai or Prahlad on the stage in Girish Chandra's place. He goes to a zoo and loses consciousness seeing a lion, Divine Mother's vehicle in its cage. In fact, his outward simplicity concealed Sri Ramakrishna's inner greatness. His soul's immensity was beyond the comprehension of many. His divine intoxication was first suspected to be lunacy. His divine visions and ecstatic moods were called hallucinations. His simple ways of life and unadorned vocabulary were looked down upon as marks of rusticity and illiteracy. In fact, an unlettered man from an obscure Bengal village, speaking spontaneously and explaining lucidly the most complex and profound utterances of the Upanishads, the Gita, the Bhagavad, and other holy texts, and living a life according to the highest teachings of the scriptures, was a real wonder. Isherwood rightly begins his book Ramakrishna and His Disciples, calling Ramakrishna a phenomenon, simple as a child as he was. Sri Ramakrishna also prescribed a simple way to come near to God and see Him, simple and yet not so simple. When Sri M asked him, under what conditions does one see God? Sri Ramakrishna replied, cry to the Lord with an intensely yearning heart, and you will certainly see Him. The emphasis here is on the second part of the utterance. Cry to the Lord with an intensely yearning heart. How under what circumstances he himself had the first vision of the mother in the temple at Dakshineshwar is well known. When no less a person than Keshav Chandra Sen complained, why do I not see God? Sri Ramakrishna said, you do not see God because you busy yourself with such things as name and fame and scholarship. Referring to this conversation with Keshav Chandra, the master on a later occasion said to another devotee, the mother does not come to the child as long as it sucks its toy, a red toy. But when after a few minutes it throws the toy away and cries, Then the mother takes down the rice pot from the hearth and comes running to the child. Note the beauty, the simplicity, the appropriateness, and the depth of the smile, depth of the simile. The simile is drawn from homely, everyday experience or observation. It is with such illustrations that the master taught profound truths. This is one of the many reasons why Sri Ramakrishna is called a saint of everyday life. And the benign smile never left him. He was a smiling saint, not a solemn-looking one. As Sri Ramakrishna speaks of the child's cry for the mother and the mother's response, we are reminded of Francis Thompson's poem In No Strange Land, where the poet says with a firm conviction that if we cry in the loneliness of our heart, in sadness and sorrow, we can have a vision of God, not in a far away or lonely region, but right here. The poem says, but when so sad that thou canst be sadder, cry, and upon thy so sore loss shall shine the traffic of Jacob's ladder, pitched between heaven and Charing Cross. Ye, in the night, my soul, my daughter, cry, clinging heaven by the hems, and lo, Christ walking on the water, not of Gennesaret, but Thames. Look at the similarity of thought and even of the language. Cry, clinging heaven by hems. This imagery is the same as of a crying Bengali child pulling the sari of the mother to take him in her arms. Can the mother refuse? If this cry comes from the depth of the heart, it will act as Jacob's ladder, connecting heaven and earth, as the Old Testament says, and Christ, that is the God's anointed or the Messiah, will be coming down to walk across not a mythical river, but the familiar Thames in the heart of London. That's what Sri Ramakrishna said so many times. One can be in contact with the divine while even living among men in cities and towns. He himself had this experience. Now, this cry for the mother, this yearning for a vision of the divine, besides being intense, must be backed up by faith. The child has a firm faith that the mother is there and must come if he calls with all earnestness. He who has faith, said Sri Ramakrishna, has all, and he who wants faith wants all. Sri Ramakrishna didn't believe in mere book learning or theoretical knowledge or metaphysical discussions. He stood for realization and practical application in day-to-day life. Convinced that every person is a reflection of God, and to serve man is to serve God, he gave practical demonstration of his faith by cleaning the house of a pariah at dead of night, lest he should be prevented during the day, by compelling the reluctant Matrubabu to feed and help the hungry santas at Devagar during a period of scarcity when he had gone there on a pilgrimage in 1868, and by similar other actions. Sri Ramakrishna said to Matrubabu, "You are only the steward of the mother." When in 1870, a year of bad harvest, Madhubabu had gone to his estate to collect the rent. They were all suffering. They could not pay the rent. Seeing that condition, Sri Ramakrishna said to Madhubabu. Madhubabu took Sri Ramakrishna to the estate. Seeing their condition, Sri Ramakrishna said, "They are mother's tenants. You must spend the mother's money when they are suffering. How can you refuse to help them? But this was not the conventional idea of charity as a sort of condescension, an attitude of throwing a few coins or crumbs of bread from a height to those below and feel gratified as having done a benefit to some people. At Dakshineshwar, while Sri Ramakrishna was in a state of super consciousness, Vivekananda heard him saying, Jiva is Shiva. Jiva is Shiva. All living beings are God. Who then dare talk of showing mercy to them? Not mercy, but service. Service for man must be regarded as God. I have heard a great saying today, said Swami Vivekananda to his brother monk, Swami Chidananda. He said to him, I will proclaim the living truth to the world. That's what he did later on. He established Ramakrishna Mission. The motto of the Ramakrishna Mission is Atmano Mokshartam Jagadhitaya. Go on doing service to the humanity. Just do that. That is a spiritual practice. The greatest spiritual practice is to serve the humanity. Do it, realization will come by itself. Don't think of realization. It comes. That is the assurance given by Swami Vivekananda. Such tremendous faith Swami Vivekananda cherished in Sri Ramakrishna's words and message. Swami Chidananda wrote, if anyone asks for the foundation of the innumerable acts of service done by the Ramakrishna Mission, he will find it here. And it was to serve man on the spiritual level. At a critical moment of our nation's history, that Sri Ramakrishna prayed to the mother not to make him a dry ascetic, but to keep him in contact with men. And the mother blessed him. Stay on the threshold of relative consciousness for the love of humanity. Stay on the threshold of relative consciousness for the love of humanity. We know that after his 6 months sojourn on the transcendental heights of the Absolute, he had practically cried halt and wanted to spend the remaining days in the company of people. And to his last breath, Sri Ramakrishna tried to give maximum spiritual ideas to whomsoever comes to him. And he tried to impress upon the people who would come to him to take up spiritual life seriously, not to waste the time anymore. Life is very short. Time runs away. The opportunity given should not be lost. We have got the human birth. Use it properly. But people don't realize it. They abuse the opportunity. They abuse this opportunity. They think human life is meant for just enjoyment, enjoyment and enjoyment. So, all their energy is just spent on enjoying and wearing out all the energy. Finally, they lose their life, getting into nothing. To be born again, to suffer. So, we have to become wise. It is in our hands. If we become wise, we can really be grateful and you can reach God. You can make your life immensely good And not only that, you can share that joy with others also. But the point is, one should make proper decision. One should hear these teachings and apply them in their day-to-day life. Spiritual ideas must be practiced in everyday life, not simply once in new moon or full moon day. Not simply during festivals we will be spiritual, the other days we need not be. No. You should be spiritual all the time. Then only you'll be able to have some kind of control over the activities which drag you towards the world more and more. So always be disciplined and hold on to these spiritual ideas given by Sri Ramakrishna. Let the everyday life be spiritually oriented. Always with the spiritual attitude you carry on the duties, then everything becomes well. And your faith also becomes strong, and finally you will realize the benefit of the faith. Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, page 786. Say page 787. The youngsters do not enjoy worldly people's company. Sri Ramakrishna is telling. Rakhal used to say, I feel nervous at the sight of the worldly minded. When I was first beginning to have spiritual experiences, I used to shut the doors of my room when I saw worldly people coming. As a boy at Kamarpukur, I loved Ram Malik dearly. But afterwards, when he came here, I couldn't even touch him. Ram Malik and I were great friends during our boyhood. We were together day and night. We slept together. At that time, I was 16 or 17 years old. People used to say, if one of them were a woman, they would marry each other. Both of us used to play at his house. I remember those days very well. His relatives used to come riding in palanquins. Now he has a shop at Chanak. I sent for him many a time. He came here the other day and spent 2 days. Ram said he had no children. He brought up his nephew, but the boy died. He told me this with a sigh. His eyes were filled with tears. He was grief-stricken for his nephew. He said further that since they had no children of their own, all his wife's affection had been turned to the nephew. She was completely overwhelmed with grief. Ram said to her, "You are crazy. What will you gain by grieving? Do you want to go to Benares?" You see, he called his wife crazy. Grief for the boy totally deluded him. I found he had no stuff in him. I couldn't touch him. The Brahmin lady still stood near the north door. She was a widow. Her only daughter had been married to a very aristocratic man, a landlord in Calcutta, with the title of Raja. Whenever the daughter visited her, she was escorted by liveried footmen. Then the mother's heart swelled with pride. Just a few days ago, the daughter had died, and now she was beside herself with sorrow. The Brahmin lady listened to the account of Ram Malik's grief for his nephew. For the last few days, she had been running to the master from her home at Bag Bazaar like an insane person. She was eager to know whether Sri Ramakrishna could suggest any remedy for her unquenchable grief. Sri Ramakrishna resumed the conversation. Master said, "A man came here the other day. He sat a few minutes and then said, 'Let me go and see the moon face of my child. I couldn't control myself and said, so you prefer your son's moon face to God's moon face? Get out, you fool. The truth is that God alone is real and all else unreal. Man, universe, house, children, all these are like the magic of the magician. The magician strikes his wand and says, come delusion, come confusion. Then he says to the audience, open the lid of the pot. See, the birds fly into the sky. But the magician alone is real and his magic unreal. The unreal exists for a second and then vanishes. Shiva was seated in Kailas. His companion Nandi was near him. Suddenly a terrific noise arose. Revered sir, asked Nandi, what does that mean? Shiva said, Ravana is born. That is its meaning. A few moments later, another terrific noise was heard. Now what is this noise? Nandi asked. Shiva said with a smile, now Ravana is dead. Birth and death are like magic. You say the magic for a second and then it disappears. God alone is real and all else unreal. Water alone is real. Its bubbles appear and disappear. They disappear into the very water from which they rise. God is like an ocean and living beings are its bubbles. They are born there and they die there. Children are like the few small bubbles around a big one. God alone is real. Make an effort to cultivate love for Him and find out the means to realize Him. What will you gain by grieving? All sat in silence. The Brahmin lady said, may I go home now? The master said to her tenderly, do you want to go now? It is very hot. Why now? You can go later on in a carriage with the devotees. Because the day was so hot, a devotee gave the master a new fan made of sandalwood. He was very much pleased and said, good, good. Om Tat Sat Kali. First he fanned the pictures of the gods and goddesses and then he fanned himself. He said to him, see, feel the breeze. M was highly pleased. We shall stop here. So, try to become spiritual and don't be carried away by the fast current of worldliness. Be cautious and take all steps necessary so that you can live spiritual life even though you are amidst worldly environment. So Sri Ramakrishna has given all the teachings and take any one of them and practice. So practice is needed. Sri Ramakrishna's life itself is a teaching. That's why I narrated some of the incidents of Sri Ramakrishna's life. Sri Ramakrishna's life and teachings, they would go together. They are one and the same. Every event in Sri Ramakrishna's life is a teaching. How he tackled the problem, how he lived the life is a model, is ideal for us. So, his ideal householder, his ideal monk, both the ideals are in Sri Ramakrishna. Do you want to become ideal householder? Good. Follow him, what he says. You want to become good monk? Follow him. You have got ideal. So Sri Ramakrishna satisfy all the ideals. Whatever ideal you want to follow, perfectly all right. What is needed is you must cherish faith in God. You must not lose your spiritual identity. Always feel you are really spiritual. The non-spiritual attitude has come because of illusion. You have to get rid of that illusion by spiritual practices. Any questions to be asked? You are welcome to ask. Satisfied? No questions. So I always call her Rupa, Puja. All right, we shall stop. Chant the name of the Lord and His glory unceasingly, that the mirror of the heart may be wiped clean and quenched that mighty forest fire, worldly lust raging furiously within. O name streamed down in moonlight on the lotus heart, opening its cup to knowledge of thyself, O self, drowned deep in the waves of his bliss, tasting his nectar at every step, bathing in his name that bath for weary souls. Various are thy names, O Lord, in each and every name thy power resides. No times are set, no rites are needful for chanting of thy name. So vast is thy mercy, how huge then is my wretchedness, who find in this empty life and heart no devotion to thy name. O my mind, be humbler than a blade of grass. Be patient and forbearing like a tree. Take no honor to thyself, give honor to all. Chant unceasingly the name of the Lord. O Lord and soul of the universe, mine is no prayer for wealth or retinue, the playthings of lust or the ties of fame. As many times as I may be reborn, grant me, O Lord, a steadfast love for thee. A drowning man in this world's fearful ocean is thy servant, O sweet one. In thy mercy, consider him as dust beneath thy feet. Oh, how I long for the day when an instant separation from thee, O Lord, will be as 1,000 years, when my heart burns with its desire, and the world without thee is a heartless void. Prostrate at thy feet let me be, in unwavering devotion, neither imploring the embrace of thine arms, nor bewailing the withdrawal of thy presence, though it tears my soul asunder. O thou who stealest the hearts of thy devotees, do with me what thou wilt, for thou art my heart's beloved, thou and thou alone. O Lord, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness to light, lead us from darkness to light, and lead us from death to immortality. May all be free from dangers, may all realize what is good, may all be actuated by noble thoughts, may all rejoice everywhere, may all be happy, may all be free from disease, may all realize what is good, may none be subject to misery. May the wicked become virtuous, may the virtuous attain tranquility, may the tranquil be free from bonds, may the freed make others free. May good betide all people, may the sovereign righteously rule the earth, may all beings ever attain what is good, may the worlds be prosperous and happy, may the clouds pour rain in time, may the earth be blessed with crops, may all countries be freed from calamity, may holy men live without fear. May the Lord, the destroyer of sins, the presiding deity of all sacred works, be satisfied, for he being praised, the whole universe becomes praised. He being satisfied, the whole universe feels satisfied.